Greetings everybody, I'm Lobo and welcome to Luna. This is episode 129 of my Minecraft survival series, and today we're making our way back over here to Wolfen's laboratory, back to the quarantine district, because the guys over here, if you'll remember, they did something bad. And maybe they started with good intentions, but the end result was anything but good. If you'll remember, what they did was they decided to open up a portal into another dimension that they found, which we are calling the Nether, because it's called the Nether. And what ended up happening was this dimension began spreading over into our own. That's why we had to put up a wet floor sign here to keep people from going back here, because the infection from this separate dimension is bleeding over into Luna. Thanks to the guys over here at Wolfen's laboratory, you can see what's going on here. Yeah, things got a little out of control. So what the Nether does, what it does is it lets us get to places faster, right? And that was the intention with what the portal that we opened. And you might remember that throughout the past couple episodes, we've been working in the Nether, kind of building up this area, in addition to the madhouse, which lets us travel to different areas around Luna. Some of which are kind of hard to get to from the overworld, you know, our beacon tunnels and stuff like that. Now, the infection from this portal that we just came through over here, how it had the Nether tentacles kind of reaching out of the portal, I want all these portals to be connected by that same kind of infectious spread from the Nether here. And how I intend to accomplish this is by having a giant worm-like Nether creature with tentacles and stuff kind of burrowing its way through the underground areas of Luna. And between episodes, I've done some digging here to kind of determine the path that this thing is going to take. If you watched the bonus episodes, you probably saw that because we weren't kind of planning out this for a little while now. But what was that sound? What was that sound? Hold on a second. Oh, poor little guy. Poor little guy. Did you jump off of there? Whenever we mess around with the Nether, horrible things happen. The Nether is just a horrible place. You know who we have to thank for this? Wolfen's laboratory. Thanks, guys. Anyway, in addition to determining the path that this thing is going to take, we're going to kind of walk along a section of that path right now. In addition to doing that, what we've also done is collected resources for this build. So I think we should be pretty much ready to go here and just get started on this right away. So I'll go ahead and just make my way out here and just make sure that we have everything that we're going to need. So far, the block palette that we're going to use is going to be netherrack and nether brick, of course, because this is the Nether. This is a Nether creature. Actually, not creature. We'll say a Nether organism, because it's not going to move around or anything like that. But yeah, we are already almost good to go. I do need to get some beds and stuff like that. But then we'll be ready. Lobo test complete. The beds are nice and bouncy and comfortable, and I think we're ready to go. So since we did drop the path in a bonus episode, I'm going to reiterate it for you guys here quickly. So this Nether worm creature is going to crawl across the bottom of the New Moon Bay, kind of linking up our portals. You know, we have the portal over at Wolfen's laboratory, the portal at the quarantine end of our storage system. Then it's going to kind of curve along this way and go into the portal at our beacon area, which does in fact link up to each of our beacons, making this area much easier to access. And I should reiterate that this area is not yet complete. We will get around to that eventually. There's still a lot to do here in Luna, right? But the Nether worm is then going to work its way along this side of the New Moon Bay and kind of go into that area, which leads us into the farm district side of our storage system. And our storage system, of course, pretty much encompasses all of Luna. You know, it's underground the entire length of Luna. But before we do any of that, I do need to figure out what the diameter of the main portal is, because that's going to be roughly the same diameter of this worm creature organism. And the diameter is fairly large. Just guesstimating here, but I would say it's fairly large blocks across. I'm going to need to measure this out. 11. Imagine that, 11. 11 is going to be the inner diameter of this creature or organism that we're going to be building here. 13, I think, is going to be the median diameter of it. Basically, the diameter that we're going to actually be boring out throughout the underground sections of Luna, through all the rock and stuff. And 15 is going to be the overall outside diameter of it, where we can actually, you know, see this thing from the outside. Basically, from the New Moon Bay, that's where we're going to actually add skin to it on the outside and, you know, make it look all weird. Were you guys tired of the portal sounds? I know I was. All right, so now that we actually have some peace, we can kind of start thinking about what we're actually going to be doing here. Now, I will say that this is bigger than I was imagining it being as I was drawing out my paths and stuff. So with how big this thing actually is, what we're probably going to have to do is kind of divert those paths a little bit. Like we'll follow the same basic paths that we drew in previously, but we're going to kind of, work to keep them away from the actual portals themselves. We'll have like tentacles reaching off into the portals that we can travel through to get there. But we're going to have to also keep it away from a lot of the redstone and stuff we have going on underground as well. Now, today we're just going to be building out the median diameter of a part of this creature. I don't think we're going to be able to get around to the whole thing, but we'll just build out the median diameter of a part of this creature, which is going to be built in netherrack. So we won't get into the nether brick or anything like that yet. That's going to be more for some features on the inside and on the outside, but the basic thing is going to be built out of a ton of netherrack. So let me go ahead and kind of get the shape of this thing in. So apparently one thing we're going to have to take into consideration is how this affects our above ground builds, because yeah, this is actually pretty close to the surface right here. It's actually right on the surface. We might not need to worry about that too much though, because it'll only affect a short area. Like if we take this nether worm and kind of drive it deeper down into the ground, we don't have to worry about it affecting too much more of the surface. And we still have to landscape this area, and stuff like that will be pretty easy to handle once we actually do landscape out here. Now, since we want to limit this thing's interaction with the surface, and not only the surface, but also our underground builds, our redstone, our storage system, and all that stuff, what I think I'm going to do is take some time to redraw the paths, make sure they're not going to interfere, make sure they're not going to run into our storage system, make sure they're not going to run into any of our other underground builds or anything like that. And I think probably the best way to do that, since we do have more room to build down than we do up, what I think we're going to do is draw in the paths using the dorsal section of this thing as a guide. So basically the very top of it, the back of it, we're going to use that as a guide to kind of determine where this thing is going to go. And fortunately, for at least a few sections of this thing, we're not going to have to bore out a hole completely through the ground, because we do have Luna kind of elevated above what the actual ground used to be, right? So that is also very convenient. And on top of that, since we are building in the dorsal section of this thing, and we know how we're going to kind of drive it down into the ground, and we know the diameter of this thing, what we can do is, as we're building this, we can kind of get a better idea of the shape of this thing and what it's going to look like as it's working its way through the underground areas of Luna. And this is going to require a little bit of thought, because obviously, we can't run it down this way, which was the original way that this thing was actually supposed to go. I was supposed to come down here and kind of link up with this portal, but obviously there's not enough room for that. So what I think we'll probably end up doing instead, as I said earlier, we'll kind of have the tentacles reach off here and kind of connect to this portal, so that way we can still access each of the portals traveling through the insides of this thing. But the main body of this, I think, is probably going to have to kind of dive down right here. I think this is the most open area that we could actually get it in. So maybe about right here, avoiding the transportation system for our storage system, avoiding the item transportation and all that stuff. Maybe right here, we'll have it start diving down. Where did you come from? No, I'm talking right now. I'm thinking. Stop interference. All right. Where did that guy even come from? Anyway, right here is where we're going to start kind of diving it down underneath the storage system, right? Which means that we have to find a way to connect that upper area to this area. And it's probably going to be kind of like a windy path, because this is going to be it's going to wind its way through here, It's going to kind of snake its way through the underground sections of Luna. And since it's going to do that, we could probably curve it around maybe this way and then have it go really steep down into this. I think that might be a good way to do this. And conveniently, as we are boring our hole, we're inevitably going to come across pockets of coal, which we're going to need to keep our smelter running to get the necessary amount of nether brick to actually do the details on this thing when the time comes to do that, which will not be in this episode. But yeah, my smelter is, I think, out, so I am eventually going to have to run this over there. I don't feel like doing it right now. Right now I'm in a rhythm. But yeah, this is eventually going to have to go over there. So if I forget, remind me. But this is what we're working with so far, so it is going to dive down this way and come over here and go underneath our storage system, and it should join with the path that we already had established for this previously, so we'll just follow that to the New Moon Bay. Now we do want to make sure that there's nothing under here that this is going to interfere with. I think we can dive it down a little bit deeper. So you'll notice that there are some pretty steep sections to this thing. It's going to be very dynamic as we build this thing, you know, but always I want it to be traversable. I want to still be able to walk through here. I don't want to have jump boost to actually make it through here, even though I always have jump boost, you know, but we don't have any sections that dive down too steep that we shouldn't be able to do that. If I could actually get up here, I can kind of show you what the inside upper area of this thing is going to be. That is not what I meant to do. Yeah, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it. I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. I might have to pillar up. Excuse me. Now, as we build today, I am going to try to turn over a new leaf. I'm going to try to put all the stuff that ends up in our inventory into the storage system instead of having it clutter up random chests around the world. So yeah, hopefully this works out. I do want to keep this. See, I almost forgot. Already. Oh, no, sir. You need to not do that. Yeah, so I may have to use some of that coal to make up a bunch of torches because, yeah, as we dig out more and more, this is going to become more and more dangerous, and netherrack is pretty susceptible to explosions, right? Yeah, I think it is. All right, progress update time. So we are slowly but surely making our way into the New Moon Bay. So we've passed our storage system and all that. We're kind of just going to continue winding this thing all the way across the New Moon Bay into the other section of our storage system. So still a long way to go, but we're making progress. And we've stumbled across a cave, one that I have not yet explored. We're pretty close to the water here. And this is on the side of the, it's a very shallow cave, but it's one that I haven't explored yet. I do want to make sure that we don't have any caves or anywhere that would spawn mobs over here, especially on the side of the quarantine district, because this is where we're going to be doing some stuff with mobs a little bit later. And I do not want these guys spawning outside of the designated spawnable areas, but we'll talk about that more later. And we've made our way out into the New Moon Bay. And you can see that this thing is going to be fairly large, you know, because while I don't want it visible from the surface, I don't necessarily want it to be subtle when viewed from underwater. I want this thing to be clearly visible if we do come under the water here. So let me go ahead, and we're out of netherrack. I need to go get some more netherrack. But I've completely lost my train of thought here. All right. Oh, and I need to run some stuff back too. So yeah, I'll go ahead and take care of that. And while that stuff is getting put away, I am going to go ahead and break up this coal. So no worries. You don't need to remind me. I remembered. I'm going to go ahead and make up some more torches with this and throw the rest of it into the smelter. And I'll take this opportunity to make you aware of another change in the path that this thing is going to take as it snakes its way through the New Moon Bay. So originally we had it kind of curving around here and then linking up with that portal over there. But I think this thing is going to be way too big to have such a dramatic curve in it, you know? It's going to be kind of squished in on itself, and I do want this guy to be comfortable here. So I think what we'll probably do is have it go like this, so a less dramatic curve, and then continue on into the farm district. Now, I am going to be spending a pretty decent amount of time underwater here, so it might make sense at this point to go ahead and grab one of my conduits. There we go. That makes things so much better. So now we're going to be able to hold our breaths indefinitely and be able to actually see what we're doing here underwater. Why is it fading in and out? I don't like that. I don't like the fact that it's fading in and out. Does that help? Why does it go so low? I don't like that. Stop it. Back! Back, I say! Alright, well, come here. Come a little bit closer. Come here. Come here. Back! Okay. Alright, so yeah, I'm just continuing to curve this thing around. It's going to take kind of a weirder shape going through here, so I have to figure out how to actually get this to be a circle eventually. I'm not sure that we're going to make it this far today with it, like getting the entire circle in through the New Moon Bay. I intend to at least get the part in the quarantine district in, but you can kind of see how this curves around. And if anybody can explain to me why my conduit power is fading in and out, it would be greatly appreciated, especially if you can tell me how to stop that from happening. But yeah, progress being made. And as we run into the New Moon Bay, I run into a little bit of an obstacle here with our beacon, because we can't necessarily run this thing underneath or over it. So I'm gonna have to push the worm to the side a little bit is what I'm thinking. But that's fine, because, you know, the more curves in it, the more kind of organic, I guess, it'll feel, hopefully anyway. So maybe that's a good thing. And as long as we give this thing a pretty wide berth, I don't think we're going to have to worry about losing any of our beacon effects. And I don't think there's really too much else underground in this section of the farm district. So we should be good all the way to the storage system. And I think this is probably about as far as we're going to take this thing. So this is where it's going to start kind of shrinking down. We'll get the tail end going in, like it'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. But we did make contact with our portal, which is right here. This is at the opposite end of our storage system in the farm district. So we have the other end of it being near the quarantine district. So it's huge. This thing is huge. This thing stretches the entire length of Luna, basically. And we'll go ahead and kind of walk the path back towards the quarantine district, so you can kind of get a sense of the scope of this thing. So it's huge. And there's no way I'm going to get this entire thing built in today. So I think what I'm going to try to do, what I'm going to attempt to do, is at least get in probably about from the quarantine district, from the start of this at Wolfen's laboratory to the New Moon Bay, right about here. I want to get all this area bored out, and I want to get the nether rack in. And if I could squeeze through this little hole here, that would be great. There we go. So I think the best way to do that, since we got a lot of work to do, is to probably go ahead and call Watchdog out here, put on a little bit of music, and get to digging. Welcome back, everybody, and we've got some of this done. I think it's looking pretty cool. This is about as much as I expected to get done. I was secretly hoping to get a little bit more than this, but yeah, I'm running out of time here. This takes a long time to do, but yeah, this is as far as we got today, and we'll go ahead and walk through here, and I'll show you what all we have going on through here. As we go out through this way, we're gonna have to definitely sponge this thing out because I don't want it to be all squishy in here. Squishy netherrack is just gross. We do have these, it does interfere with the tunnels going between our beacons, so we'll have to figure out some way to make that work. Maybe having some tentacles reach out here, go into those areas to kind of make them make sense with this. You know, Watchdog leaving his slime blocks all over the place. But we'll go ahead and follow this thing up, and you can see here what we've done basically is bring the Nether into Luna. We brought a huge chunk of the Nether into Luna, and I think overall it's looking pretty cool. This is actually better than I thought it was going to go, and we haven't even got to the detail part yet. We've just got the basic structure of this thing in, part of this thing. So yeah, there's still a lot more work to do here. And remember that thing I said earlier about me turning over a new leaf and running everything back to the storage system? I didn't do that. There's so much to be done here, and you know, it's just so much more convenient to just put the stuff in chests. And don't look at me like that. I know I did wrong, but anyway, let's talk about this thing some more plans for it. So we said we're gonna have like nether tentacles and stuff reaching off of this, and I was thinking what could be pretty cool, like we'll get the body of it built in first, right? But once we figure out like where those nether tentacles should go, we could have them actually stretch out pretty far and connect to different portions of our city, maybe some underground portions, to make everything kind of easier to access by traveling through this nether worm beast that's going to be kind of, you know, doing its thing throughout the ocean floor here. Now, since this is such a big project, I think it would make sense to kind of work on this in phases, you know? Like if we do an episode building something else, we can do a little bit of this and kind of work it into that. Kind of like we do with our city walls, you know? We don't tackle those all at one time because it's too much. So this will be kind of like that, except for I don't think it'll take as long because we've been working on those walls forever, right? This isn't that big. But if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to hit that little thumbs up button. That would mean a whole lot to me. If you want to see more, please remember to subscribe. And as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I am Lobo, and I will see you guys later.